Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about Star Trek, the Next Generation. Quickly go through this, basically what I saw, what I watched. I won't be going through any specific episodes in this one, just just a general thing about the ship, the crew members, and generally what I think. And I hope you enjoy, and please subscribe. Right, Star Trek Next Gen. Will admit, when I first watched it, when I was first watching it as a kid, I was not that enthralled with it. I was more of a Star Wars kid, but now I've watched it, a bit older, I really actually do enjoy it. The first 3 seasons are a bit, but after season 3, especially in the last episode of season 3 to season 4, when we first had a proper first encounter with the Borg, it sort of, I don't know, season 4, season 5, all the other seasons seemed really good after that encounter with the Borg, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I think because the Borg was such different, I think that's what made them such a good villain as well. But yeah, all the characters, because a lot of them stayed around for the entire 7 seasons, you got to see them evolve and become better people. I think that's what made Star Trek Next Gen so good. So the ship that they're in the Next Gen is the Galaxy class starship, the Enterprise D. It's the most advanced starship in the fleet at the time. It was going further than anybody was able to go. It had formidable shields, formidable weapons, had a good science area, had the latest technology when it comes to warp design and weapons and defences. So it was an all-round good ship, very powerful, and yeah, I think it was more down to the crew. Like I said, the ship was impressive, but the crew was even better, which I'll talk about now. Right, move on to the crew now, and probably one of the most important and pivotal characters in the Star Trek franchise, as in this one, is the captain. And this one was Captain Jean-Luc Picard, played by Patrick Stewart. And I must admit, he made that role his. I can't imagine anybody playing that role even better. Yeah, I really don't want to say that it hasn't already been said a billion times about him. He's a great actor, and he puts a hell of a performance, probably better than Star Trek probably really needs. But yeah, I really like the character, and you see over like the course of like all 7 seasons, his character change and become a bit more humble, but his confidence is always there, but it's not arrogance, so that's always good. And he seems like a really good guy and good captain, and he gets the crew that he wants, and gets the way he wants it, and that's really good to see. Okay, his number one, Jean-Luc Picard's number one, William T. Riker. What can you say about William T. Riker? There wasn't a girl that he didn't like, I think is probably the best way to describe him. He likes to be flirty with all the girls that end up on the show, but he is also very professional as well. And when he's, and he always, yeah, he just he does take command quite well, and he does what he needs to do to make sure that everyone's safe and to get the job done to the best of his ability. There's a little bit of friction probably between Picard and Will to start with, but after the first 2 or 3 episodes, it seems to get better, and then him and number one sort of get really well acquainted, and it helps the chemistry, especially on the bridge, between them. And yeah, I think he's a really good guy, and a really good, he's a good laugh. He looks like he could be sort of a lad you'd like to go out with on a night out, and you can always guarantee a good laugh. Deanna Troi. For those who do not know, she's the counselor of the ship, and she's also half Betazoid, which means that she can sense people's feelings, and that's obviously very useful as a job as the counselor. And she's always there helping Picard make decisions. She's always on the bridge, sitting next to the captain, and she can sense not only the feelings of a one-to-one basis, but around the entire ship, and of different races. So that's always helpful to have, because then you can tell whether somebody's being deceitful or not. I think she was meant to be the sex symbol, so to speak, of the next gen, and she's the prettiest, definitely the prettiest of all the females on the show. So I can definitely see that being the case. She has she has a history with William Riker as well. So to start with, their relationship is a bit dodgy, but they both are professional and work it out so they can actually at least work together on the team. Okay, Mr. Data, the android. Now, there's a lot to be said about Data, but I'll try and keep it as short as I can. Data, when you first meet him, he's your typical, what you would class as a robot android. No feelings, no anything. He's just like a dictionary, basically, of everything. But as you go through the seasons, you see that he evolves, and you see that he doesn't get emotion, because obviously he's an android, but he comes across as more human as the seasons go along, and because he's designed to evolve, which obviously means that he can do that. But yeah, I found it really fun. He's one of these characters that you have to that they had to do a really good backstory and give him a really good backstory, and they did that, which is good, because it made him more relatable. And yeah, he has some really good episodes just to himself, and I think they really help his character a lot. Geordi LaForge, the chief engineer. For the first season, he wasn't the chief engineer, he was just an engineer, but he seemed that in the later seasons he did get promoted to chief engineer. The thing that makes Geordi LaForge unique is the fact that he has to wear this visor so he can see, because he's blind. He's been blind from birth. And I think that makes him a very interesting character, and it's also something that's very interesting as well, because it shows you what they might be able to do in the future to help blind people see. Could be a possibility. But getting back to the topic of Geordi, he becomes really good friends with Data, and it's very good to see their relationship, how their relationship changes and whatnot. So that's very good. I enjoy seeing that. And yeah, they all have really good backstories, which obviously helps all the characters. You see them all in different situations and stuff, and that's really good. And yeah, it's just really interesting to see Geordi evolve as well, because he came in and he was just just your typical engineer, and you got to know him, his personal goals and people that he wanted to meet and stuff, and it was all really good stuff. So okay, Lieutenant Commander Worf, head of security. He doesn't really get that much of a backstory really in Star Trek Next Gen. His story sort of becomes more complex and everything, and becomes the person he is during Deep Space Nine. But he does have some backstory, and he does have some really good storylines in Next Gen as well, where he's forced to be thrown out of the Klingon Empire, literally. Then he gets the chance to get his family honor restored, and you meet a member of his family who which is always good. But yeah, I think the best storylines for Worf are probably in Deep Space Nine, but there are some really good episodes for him with Next Gen as well. and like all the characters, he evolves. And when you first meet him, he's your typical Klingon, but he mellows out and obviously becomes a bit more human. And it's always good to see that in a character. Dr. Beverly Crusher. Now, what can you say about Beverly? Well, as her title says, that she's the Doctor of the Enterprise. So she has a son, which I'll discuss a bit later, Wesley Crusher, who I will mention in a bit later. But she also knows Jean-Luc, the captain, very well. Apparently, her husband was killed, and Jean-Luc was the person to bring her husband back from the battle. So there's a lot of history between him and between her and Jean-Luc. And as the seasons go on, there seems to be a very romantic interest between them. In some of the scenes, it seems a bit, like maybe she likes him a bit more than just a friend. But it doesn't seem to go further than that, so I think they're just really, really good and close friends. She has some very interesting and very unusual storylines which help develop a character. But that's about it, really. She is the Doctor, and that's about it. Miles O'Brien, or the Transporter Chief. Now, he's only in it for the first few seasons. I think he's only in until about season 5 or even season 6. If I'm wrong, please put that in the comments. He's not really a character you get to really know that well, unless there's an actual episode devoted to him. You get to see more of Miles in Deep Space Nine as well, just a bit like Worf, where he becomes like the chief engineer, so you get to see him a bit more in that one. There are some episodes where he's there, being the transporter chief, and there's a couple of episodes where he's helping the captain stop one of his ex-captains from doing some more damage to the Cardassians, one of the bad guys of the Star Trek. But no, I think there's not really much to say about O'Brien, because, like I said, there's not really much to go on, because his story doesn't really get into going until we get into Deep Space Nine. Okay, going to do some honourable mentions now. These are characters, 3 characters that deserve to be mentioned because they are either in a lot of episodes or for whatever reason they're just memorable to me. Okay, the first one is Tasha Yar. Now, Tasha Yar was in the first season was actually the first chief of security, which was very unusual because it was a woman being chief of security, and you couldn't. And back then, when the thing going on, it wasn't really thought of as a job for a woman. But anyway, she does come across as a very strong woman. She does have a couple of episodes devoted to her in the first couple of seasons, but then she left, and then she played another part in the later episodes where she was actually a Romulan woman, which was ended up being Tasha's daughter. I won't go too much into detail of that because it'll take too long to explain. But Tasha Yar was a very strong woman and definitely needed a mention. Okay, probably my least favourite character, but he still deserves a mention because he isn't in quite a lot of episodes, and that is Wesley Crusher. Like I said, that's Beverly's son, and he comes onto the ship and he is extremely childish. He doesn't really know where he really fits in at the moment. He's still growing up, which is probably why he's quite childish. And yeah, when Jean-Luc first like meets him, Jean-Luc is not impressed, and he's not very happy with him, and doesn't really like him that much, I don't think. And yeah, eventually they sort of become friends, and he goes off to Starfleet Academy to earn his own commission, so he can do what his father did. And yeah, there's not really much else to say, because he sort of, after he goes off to Starfleet Academy, he sort of shows up every now and then. He's not in it constantly. Okay, and the last person I'm going to briefly touch on is Guinan. Now, Guinan, who's played by Whoopi Goldberg, apparently she was asked if she wanted to be on Star Trek, and she jumped at the chance to do it, and I'm quite happy she did, because Guinan is a very interesting character. She was her home, her original home, was attacked by the Borg and destroyed, and she managed to get to Federation space, and she was actually rescued by the Enterprise B. And yeah, it's very interesting. Her character has already evolved before we actually get to meet her, but we learn a lot about her. She's very, very close to Captain Picard, and she has, she spends a lot of time with the Captain, and she's always got the Captain's ear as well, and she always has this feeling. She's also had issues with characters as well, but obviously I won't go into that, because I said don't want to give too much detail away. Okay, well, thank you for watching this video about Star Trek Next Generation. Hopefully it will give you a little bit more information on the characters. I know it's very basic, but I think that's all it really needs. If you want more information, let me know in the comments, and might do video on some of the, might do a bit of a, do some characters and just flesh them out a little bit more. I'll be doing one on Voyager and Deep Space Nine very soon, hopefully. Yeah, so hope you enjoy, and I hope you have a fantastic day, and please subscribe.